Okay.
Here's my review. Before, I thought your audio was fantastic. I've always told you, even though you shit on your audio, I thought your audio was great, using your laptop, computer, whatever. Now your audio is still good, but I can definitely tell that you're using a microphone. Whereas before I could not. If that makes sense. God, I can't wait until one of these days when we get Josh's cell phone and he like throws it at a wall in fear when it blinks or something. What is this? Foreign technology. Can I play Snake on this?
Where is the bouncing 60s retro ball screensaver for this phone? Do you remember that? Am I the crazy one in this scenario?
I remember that.
Yeah. Or
the only old-ass screensaver... I was going to say the only old-ass screensaver I remember is the Maze.
The Maze that actually made your computer run hotter than anything you could actually run on the computer.
Right? When I was a kid, I'd sit there and stare at that thing for fucking ages, though.
And now it feels like we're stuck in a maze again with this fucking podcast, and there is no end in sight except for the sweet, sweet brink of death.
Hello, and welcome to Star Wars Every Week Forever, where we are given the unfortunate task, self-imposed, to watch one Star Wars movie every... You know, I'm going to interrupt the intro just to say I have made that mistake so many times, replacing movie with week, that I have become actively disgusted with myself for it. We watch one Star Wars movie every week for the rest of our goddamn lives. This week, The Last Jedi.
I think this is the first time that you counted down using real numbers, Josh, and I'm very proud of you.
Why would you put that on the podcast?
Because it's my shtick. I always fuck up the countdown.
Also, why'd you do it so fast? Like, we're on the podcast now. Hello.
Because
But I wasn't ready.
It's already fallen apart.
I'm still on 3, and we're in the podcast. You spoke like some weird language like the second time we did it, and then you use words, and now we're in numbers, and there's a podcast.
It was a bit
oh my
just
god,
for
I'm
us.
losing my mind.
It was a bit just for us. It wasn't for the world to know.
A bit just for us.
Josh, half the episodes, when we start the episode, I go, wait, what? As soon as we're done counting down.
I know, you make me upset.
I know,
We've done this 8 times now.
Mom always told me if I'm good at something, never do it for free.
So that explains why we do this podcast for free. How was your watch, Ben?
It was good. I resented the movie a lot less than I thought I was going to.
Oh, that's good. Chris, how was your watch?
I mean, it was fine, I guess. I got actively angry every time Finn and Rose were on screen, and it's not because I don't like the characters, because I like the characters. It's like, what are we doing? Why are they here?
Yeah.
They fucking, you know what this episode, or this episode, this fucking movie was, especially with everyone on the ship, it's like a TV show when they do a bottle episode. This movie was a fucking bottle episode.
A bottle episode? These are terms I'm not used to.
It's like an episode of a sitcom. A good example is, because, you know, it's super meta, is the Community episode. Did you ever watch Community?
Nope.
Okay, well, they, you know.
I will say, Chris, good luck finding a show I have watched.
Well, they explain it very well. A bottle episode is in a sitcom when there's always that episode where, like, someone's trapped in an elevator or something. And it's in one room and nobody fucking goes anywhere and nothing fucking happens. It's a filler episode. And
it's like,
damn it.
90% of Dragon Ball.
So, yeah, no, that's a fair comparison, but I will say, one of the things I noticed on this watch, I had a fine watch, but this was the thing that I noted when I was talking about my watch a lot. God knows that The Last Jedi decided to. One thing it is both very good and very terrible at is taking expectations and throwing them out the window. It was a design choice, but it never feels malicious. sometimes it's terribly misguided and genuinely fucking stupid, but it never feels
yeah.
malicious. It never feels like it was specifically going out to say fuck you to anything like The Rise of Skywalker. But one thing I did notice is that The Rise of Skywalker took the few things that were great in this movie and made me actively dislike them tremendously because none of them fucking matter now. Because the few things that this movie did to build on the lore of The Force Awakens or to build of itself in and of itself doesn't fucking matter anymore, and that's why it feels like a filler
I
episode.
mean, to be fair, this kind of also did the same thing to The Force Awakens.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is it doesn't feel malicious in this movie, and also, while I know that Chris said a lot in the last podcast, it feels like Rian Johnson didn't watch The Force Awakens. The impression that I got watching this movie wasn't that Rian Johnson didn't watch The Force Awakens, it's that Rian Johnson watched The Force Awakens and said, what can I do with this, rather than what would JJ do with this?
See, I'm gonna be real with you. I think I think a lot of it comes off malicious, quite honestly. Especially in retrospect, the fucking Finn and Rose.
No, I'm not disagreeing with that.
Like, what the fuck? You went, here's this very important character who held a fucking lightsaber and fought the Sith in training in the last movie. You know what he's gonna do in this movie? He's gonna fuck off and do nothing.
Yeah.
He's gonna, like, we're gonna take our very clear black male lead and go, yeah, no, fuck him. He's going over here now.
You're right.
He's
No,
gonna
I
go
agree
do
with that.
Jack all for the whole movie.
I agree with you. I'm not denying that. And it's like, that entire story arc not only could have been cut from the movie, and I'll go into that at some point, but could have been cut from the movie, and this movie is the longest movie in the Star Wars saga by 10 minutes. If you cut yes, it is 152 minutes, whereas the closest to it is Attack of the Clones at 142. This movie is the longest in the entire saga. And if you cut out the entire Canto Bight bit, it would probably be similar to the length of A New Hope or Empire or maybe even Return of the Jedi, which are all the shortest of them all. And I'm not saying you should in any way, shape, or form when I say this. I'm saying that it is such a small part of the movie, it does not last for long, but it actively ruins the movie by being there.
And I'm gonna be honest, that part feels like it takes up so much more of the runtime than it actually does, because
it's like 15 minutes long, but it actively fucking ruins the entire experience of the movie.
So just real quick to give a rundown. This movie and Rian Johnson gives us the destruction of Finn's character and makes, a very strong attempt to make him an afterthought and a side character, which, because of this movie, he ends up becoming. It gives us the beginnings of the really dumb Rey and Kylo ship.
Yeah.
Well,
no, I'm gonna step in on
ship that much, to be honest.
No, that ship fucking sucks, and we can talk all day about it. One thing that I think this movie was trying to do that got fucked up in the next movie, I don't think they were trying to make the ship a thing. I think they were trying to make Kylo Ren the villain of the third movie, like the primary villain. The more I watched this movie, like, he was supposed to be the primary villain. He wasn't supposed to be just some kind of side character that was redeemed. Maybe it was redeemed at the end. I don't fucking know. But it was very clear to me that they weren't trying to make this a relationship that was a ship to me. No.
But and this is what I mean by began, because what you just said was going to be in my pro category. Now, it fucking set in motion, though, what then got picked up and became a fucking thing.
Yeah,
whether it was the intention to do it, it laid enough of the groundwork that it became a fucking thing. So regardless of what Rian Johnson's intention was with it, he is still responsible for it becoming what it is. Fuck him.
No, I don't feel like I could blame him for that one. I feel like that comes back to why the fuck was Palpatine a thing? Like,
Yeah, oh,
That's
100%.
something we'll
Because
get
that,
into next week.
yeah, that is 100%. That was one of the few things that I came away from watching this movie appreciating, is the fact that they did. When I left the theater after seeing this movie, I really liked the idea of Rey's parentage being like a non-issue, like having no weight to it really. And I also loved the idea of this mysterious Sith Lord just being killed off with no explanation of who he was.
I
really appreciated that.
Snoke getting killed off the way he did pissed me off to no end, and it still irks me.
That's one thing that this movie, the bane and the best thing about this movie, is that it actively at all corners tries to defy your expectations. The Snoke one was bad, and I don't even think it was bad because of the way it was executed. I think it was bad because Ryan should have fucking known, based on the movie he made, that there wasn't going to be enough communication to make it clear to the next director, okay, Snoke is put to the side, Kylo Ren is your bad guy. Yeah. If they were going to do that, there had to be enough communication to say, okay, we have spent an entire movie building up, this guy is either not redeemable or it's going to take an entire thing to make him redeemable. This is your bad guy. You have built him since movie 1. This is your fucking bad guy. But because, and I do blame Rian Johnson for this, because Rian Johnson knew that there wasn't going to be enough communication to make it clear that Kylo was the bad guy, because JJ clearly likes Kylo, he indirectly made Palpatine a thing.
Yes. Like I said, when I first left the theater, I appreciated both of those things. Now, in this rewatch, still a big fan of Rey, parentage-wise, her parents being, quote-unquote, nobodies.
It was more interesting, yeah.
Yes. The Snoke thing fucking sucks.
Yeah, you're right.
So fucking much.
It wouldn't have sucked if... Okay, I was going to say if Rian Johnson directed the third movie, but I don't trust him to do that. But if there had been someone directing the third movie that understood the direction, and I'm not saying that Rian Johnson didn't fuck up the direction on multiple points. You're absolutely right. He was malicious towards side characters. I have many rants, like all of the fucking side characters were fucked up in some way, shape, or form. Like Finn and Rose... It's a fucking travesty what they did with these characters in this movie. And I have an alternate scenario, much like the Grievous scenario, that I will present at some point. But it is Rian Johnson's fault that he did not see going forward, based on his experience making a Star Wars movie, that JJ or whoever looked at it would see Snoke's death and go, oh, I need a new big villain. Even if he made it clear that Kylo was a new villain. And fuck Rian Johnson for that, too.
Yeah, I mean...
The one thing that drives me absolutely crazy about this movie, and it's more than just one thing that drives me nuts about this movie, obviously, but one of the big ones is how it opens. We come up on the Resistance base getting evacuated. It's like, oh shit, like, big shit, this is the entire Resistance. What the fuck? And then Poe comes up in his X-Wing. I'm like, oh, great, Poe's going to come fuck shit up. And he starts making jokes about being on hold.
Yeah.
And I just kind of sit there every time like, oh my god. Like, I actually cringe at it. Because I'm just like, this is what we're doing.
The jokey nature of this movie was mentioned a lot in reviews. And I don't think it's as bad as it's made to seem. I think it's as bad as it is in other places in the Star Wars saga, which isn't a glowing recommendation. But one of the things that is consistently played for humor in this movie is Hux. Mm-hmm. And I feel like it feels like Ryan paid attention to The Force Awakens, but only to the parts he wanted to pay attention to. One of the things he didn't want to pay attention to was the fact that Hux does the literal Nazi salute in the first movie. And in this
gives
movie,
a Hitler speech.
yeah, he's literally comic relief, like the big coward do nothing in the Empire, and it pisses me off so much.
Yeah, and it's like if you're, I feel like you can't treat a villain that way and still expect them to be intimidating. Is the
No,
issue.
they very clearly didn't want him to be intimidating. My question is why?
No, but like in The Force Awakens, they set him up to be. I mean, like we said, like the vehicle, the stand-in for Space Hitler.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I'm saying in this movie they didn't want him to be intimidating for some reason, and I don't, for the life of me, fucking understand why. It's not even that I'm a fan of his character. I'm just generally fucking annoyed that they saw that they decided this was the character to make the lovable, not even lovable, but like the side Empire comedy relief, because he's clearly fucking evil to the very core and should not be sympathized with. Another thing that struck me on this watch through, the things that is almost universally praised in this movie, and let me say it out there, I think Mark Hamill gives the best acting performance in the entire Star Wars series here.
Yeah, I could get behind that.
I don't think anybody compares to him in terms of his tone, in terms of his emotional resonance, in terms of his...
Which I find ironic, because if you listen to a lot of the interviews with Mark Hamill, he says from the outset, like, I do not agree with what you're doing with this character. But he still manages to deliver this great performance.
Until next rotation, the only piece of documentary that I've seen from the sequel trilogy is the documentary done on The Last Jedi. And it's very clear, like, Rian Johnson and Mark Hamill got along, but there was strenuous relations there. And there's literally parts where Rian Johnson is talking about how Mark doesn't agree, and there's parts where Mark is saying he doesn't agree. And despite all that, he puts in the best acting performance of his fucking life, and that is to be commended. Just not to misquote Mark Hamill, he has said on occasion that he wishes he hadn't been as verbal about it because he feels like he set people in with bad expectations to see the movie. I don't agree with his comment, but he has said that, so let's just make sure that's shoehorned in there somewhere.
Look, there's a lot in this trilogy. Fuck, even in Rise of Skywalker. Like, there's a lot that you can defend from some angles. I don't fucking know what. I'm sure there's some.
It's there somewhere.
It's there somewhere in Rise of Skywalker.
One of the shots probably looks good. I don't know. Fucking the way they handled, like, just getting rid of Luke as a character is the worst fucking part of this trilogy.
I don't
like, fucking kill him off if you want, but what the fuck? Like,
I watched this again and I was fine with it still to this day. You want to know what I think the issue is when we look at Luke's entire story arc? And how it kind of is dissonant from everything else. The first thing, when he dies, watching Two Suns, they play the fucking Force theme instead of Binary Sunset, and that doesn't help the goddamn situation.
I'm not the only one who noticed.
That is the dumbest fucking decision possible. One of the big things that this movie, one of the big themes of this movie, that they go over and over again, especially in Poe's subplot thing, is that a dead hero isn't a hero if they still have things that they can do. But the movie actively disagrees with this point all the fucking time. Put aside the fact, maybe we'll bring it back up because it really pisses me off. Put aside the fact, I don't have much of a problem with Poe's entire little arc fucking thing. The way it wraps up pisses me off because essentially the entire arc leads up to the climax of you should follow orders. And I get that it was, you should follow Leia's orders and we all like Leia. But no, fuck that.
Yeah.
Like, Poe didn't necessarily do anything wrong with the way he reacted to anything because the leadership wasn't communicating.
that's one thing I really wanted to talk about in this movie.
Oh.
Because every time I watch it, I'm like, Poe's supposed to be in the wrong here. That's how this story is framed. But the whole time he's like, hey, everyone's gonna fucking die. Are we doing things? And she's just like, shoo.
Yeah. But like the entire point of the entire movie, because it opens with the bombing run, Poe is responsible for the deaths there. In a lot of ways, the movie puts the blame of the Rebel Alliance falling apart or the Resistance falling apart because he didn't follow orders, and because he sent Finn and Rose, which is another fucking problem with the Finn and Rose story arc. Oh my fucking god! Because he sent them there, they knew, and it kind of fucked the entire plan. It's so morally wrong that they decided to make that entire subplot just about, hey, follow orders. Like, there's people that are smarter than you. But on top of that, one of the things they go over and over and over again in this movie is that a dead hero isn't useful if they can still be useful as a hero. And then they end the movie by circumventing that with Luke. If that was just a plot thread on its own, I would have had no problem with it. I feel like it would have been a full story arc for both Rey's character dealing with Luke and Luke. But because the rest of the movie riddles in this bullshit about, a dead hero isn't useful, it feels that much more robbed. I blame the rest of the fucking movie for that being so wrong. Because again, he was so obsessed with the Force plot line that he paid no attention to the rest of the fucking plot.
We talked a lot about this with Attack of the Clones. This movie could have been 2 movies.
Yeah.
And would have been much better for it.
Yeah.
To go on off of the ending. What pisses me off about it is, so Luke astral projects himself to go fight Kylo and then dies on the island where the temple's at. Why didn't he just fucking go himself then?
Because he failed and he didn't know where he was going.
Yeah, but if he just croaks anyway.
He couldn't get there in time. His only chance of getting there in time left when Rey left. He failed in that moment, so the only way he could get there was putting his entire force there.
Mm.
Like the movie explains that part.
I don't know, Chief.
And I don't have a problem with astral projection being this grand thing, because people everybody complains about midichlorians being too much science-y, but Star Wars fans watching these movies got super obsessed with what the Force can and cannot do canonically in the past, and it annoys the crap out of me. I have no problem with the astral projection. I don't even have a problem with the way Luke died. I have a problem that everything else around the movie made that moment dull and stupid, and they didn't play Binary Sunset. Like, what the fuck? And the other thing is that I have a Grievous-related rant for this movie as well, but I'm going to try to keep it short.
This movie?
Yes.
You're a little late there, Josh. You're like a trilogy and a half late there, Josh.
It's not Grievous specifically. It's Grievous akin, like, we can take out an entire arc in this movie and replace it with something better, and the movie would...
You said Grievous-related. I was like, how are you going to bring Grievous into this? God, this movie is not that bad. Fuck.
So the entire Finn and Rose arc. First of all, I'm going to say this, and it's probably going to be controversial. I don't understand why a casino is like the straw that broke the camel's back as far as what can happen in the Star Wars universe. Because it's very clearly an incredibly greedy universe.
I don't
people.
I don't think it's as much why is a casino in the Star Wars universe. I think it's more why is a mainline Star Wars title taking us to a casino for no reason?
I don't have a problem with that. I'm more confused by the horse racing part. Like, the entire Canto Bight part is not, it's not the casino that breaks the immersion. It's like the entire part of it. Like, why are we here? What's the reason?
All of Canto Bight really kind of takes me out of it, because
yes,
a lot of it is too.
It's an afterthought, is what it is.
Yes, but like the I'm trying to. Things don't seem alien enough, if that makes sense.
I will
And I know
count.
that's a weird thing to say about Star Wars, because a lot of things in Star Wars seem familiar, but like it seems too familiar. I don't. That's.
I don't know. I don't have. I didn't have an issue with the location itself. It's more along what you said
Yeah,
before
yeah.
of why are we here for no reason? Like,
Yeah.
Which
I mean, they could have fucking been anywhere. I mean, another great example in this franchise is, hey, why are we in a space diner for
I wanna
this
get-
alien that runs a diner and knows about the
Yeah.
start?
I want to get back on my point, but I am gonna throw this out there because I was thinking about it. One has to go: the casino or the diner. Don't think about story plot. Just think about which one annoys you more: the
I'm
casino.
keeping the diner. I'm keeping the
The
diner.
diner.
Dexter Jetster is an amazing person, and my life is better for him being in that movie.
I'd get rid of the casino, even though it's not that breaking for me.
But the casino gives us Broom Boy.
Don't get me started.
Oh,
Savior of the
that's
galaxy.
I want to get out this point, the rewriting of this part, before I get to Broom Boy. So I was sitting there, and YouTube can both attest to this. I messaged the group chat that we have when going over anything related to Rock. And I was like, isn't there like a hacker or somebody good with computers and Rebels? And everybody was like, no, not really. And I'm like, is there like a mercenary or something? And they're like, well, there's Sabine. I'm like, okay, Sabine. So one of the big problems with this movie is that it entirely ignores Finn's character. Not only does it ignore Finn's character, but it actively makes him a coward at the beginning, despite the fact that the last movie was about him being a coward and overcoming it. And they don't really go back to that. They just go on to the next plot point. It's fucking stupid, and it's a goddamn travesty. What they could have done in this movie is take out the entire fucking Canto Bite part and go to... And instead of that, they could have had a story arc where Maz knew that there was someone that was in the custody of Snoke at one point that managed to escape from that ship and has been in hiding ever since, and Maz has like a minor lead. And that person can end up being Sabine, and Finn and Rose go to find them, and Sabine is close with one of our Jedi characters. Like
This is why this is why you need to watch these spin-offs. You can't do that.
Yeah.
You can't
Why-
do that. They are indisposed.
they are indisposed for... Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But like
you
like
can't do
fucking Ahsoka's in that one. She's not indisposed.
that. Yes, she is.
How? You were the one that said in the Force Awakens.
By current canon, nobody knows where they are.
That's what I'm saying, though. Like, you can put them into the canon here by making people know where they are.
But
They're clearly a setup for something that's happening later.
and Josh, Sabine ends up becoming a very important member of one of the Mandalorian clans.
Okay.
So if
So-
you have her imprisoned anywhere,
Yeah.
shit's gonna go down. Because you
Okay,
don't do that to the
let's
Mandalorian.
throw this all out because this doesn't matter. I just wanted to go off of Chris, who has said multiple times that he wanted to take those characters and put them in important roles in these movies.
But the problem with those characters is the way they ended Rebels. They need to do a spin-off or a continuation of that story. You can't just inject one of these characters into something, otherwise it's going to be really weird.
All right, so let's throw all that aside. We can even just make it a hacker again. We can keep DJ, which is a whole side brand.
I hate that character so
Is
fucking much.
DJ the guy in the prison cell
Yes, I don't like DJ. I'm not
with the
saying
really weird bad stutter?
yeah.
It's
I'm
Benicio
not
del
saying
Toro, who I adore.
I'm not saying DJ bothers me because he's a plot point that is just left out there in the fucking winds to never be seen again when he was very clearly important to Finn's character because it's the only thing they did with Finn's fucking character in this movie. But all I'm saying is that rather we can take out Canto Bite and instead send them to someone that is in some way intimate with Snoke's ship, because they were very clearly captured because they knew someone who was still a Jedi. And you can send Finn and Rose to find that person, and they can find someone that was related to the Force in some way. And there you get your fucking inroads to Finn being a Jedi again that way, and the movie turns out the same exact goddamn way.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
No, they could have. Oh, I'm mad now, Josh. You made me mad.
What did I do?
So in
Continue.
Star Wars Resistance, which is the
Yeah.
newest animated show that is awful.
Not great.
There's a character who essentially defects from the main group and becomes a pilot for the First Order
Yes.
because she finds out that her best friend was a spy for the Resistance. Like, they could have done something with that.
Yeah. That might work.
Like, that would have been perfect.
But, like, what I'm saying is that whatever that character was knew someone that was at least close to the Jedi or was Force sensitive, and through that subplot, you can get to exactly where you were on Snoke's ship, but through it, you can imply that Finn is Force sensitive in this movie so you can continue that fucking plot thread in the next movie without dropping it. And the movie would be better for it because Canto Bite would be gone.
Or, because my immediate thought watching this movie was, okay, well, you can still introduce Rose because they set it up perfectly with her sister in the beginning.
Yes.
Introduce Rose and have her intertwined with Poe's story throughout the story.
Yes, that works too.
And then send Finn with Rey. Why wouldn't he go? Because he's also fucking Force sensitive. And then you have the two Jedi going to find Luke Skywalker.
Yes, that would
Oh
work
my
too.
God.
And
And
that
also,
way
there's less fucking plot points to the movie, and there's
And
less
that-
bullshit.
we can cut this movie's length down.
Yep.
But I don't know. Anyway, my preference would be that Finn finds out he's Force sensitive in this movie and then becomes a full-fledged Jedi in the next movie, but that's a whole different thing. All that matters is that would have made the movie better, one, and two, made sure that Finn being Force sensitive is a plot point that we follow. I need to get that out there. I'm done, I swear.
Chris
It
just
took a
reminded
while.
me about something with this movie that
Please.
fucking pissed me off. Is that in the beginning? Well, first of all, we get reintroduced to Finn and he's played as a gag, which pissed me
Yeah.
off. Which pisses me off to no end.
Not only is he played as a gag, but he's played as a gag that is a coward.
Mm-hmm.
When his entire plot point in the last movie was that he's him overcoming cowards.
So you're talking about him going to the escape pods and all that shit?
Yes. Yes.
He wasn't running though. He was trying to find Rey.
He was still technically running though. Because
Yes,
he was
but not.
he was giving up on the entire fleet in favor of one person, that is cowardice and selfishness.
He was trying to prevent more people from
This
dying.
leads to the dark side. Finn's a Sith.
But anyway, like we said last time, they give Finn and Poe, like they have all this chemistry.
Yep.
And even in the beginning of this movie, Finn and Poe have so much chemistry. And I feel like at the climax when they're on Fake Hoth and
I
they
love
do
that planet, by the way. I know that planet is visually interesting.
it's
That's all.
visually Hoth
No, it's not visual.
with
okay.
red.
That planet is, unfortunately, what most of the planets on this movie, well, not just this movie, this fucking
Okay. No.
entire trilogy.
This is the one interesting looking movie in the entire, one interesting planet in the entire saga. Don't take my salt planet away from me.
Well, Josh is pretty salty about it.
Thanks. Oh, God, Ben beat me to it. Fuck.
No, but like,
all the not to sidetrack us more, but all of the planets in this fucking trilogy suck. They're all redos of other planets.
Yeah.
well, as much
At
as I
least
don't
this
want to give
movie-
it credit,
At
much
least
as I-
this movie names the fucking planets, though. I didn't realize how much this movie does the thing that the other two don't do, which is name the fucking planets you're going to so you can remember them. At least it gets that.
well, the one thing I will give The Rise of Skywalker is Exegol seems like a very new cinematic Star Wars planet.
Which one is Exegol?
The Sith one.
Oh.
empty
The one that they
planet with
talk
everything.
about like a billion times.
The empty planet whose only landscape we know about is a hole that goes down to Palpatine's hideout.
Ah, yes, visually fascinating planet.
Well, no, I'm saying that's the only one that isn't a retread, and I'm not saying that's
Yeah, it's not
not.
visually
I'm not saying it's
interesting, but
good.
different.
I'm just saying it's new.
This is
It's not generic Snow Planet 3, or I'm sorry, generic Salt Planet now, and jungle with some ruins.
Oh, let's not
I will
forget
defend.
Tatooine 4.
I will defend that Salt Planet. But yeah, these movies are not anywhere near as visually interesting as the prequels, or even to an extent the original trilogy. The original trilogy didn't have that interesting of locations. It's just that it was the first time they did any of them. The prequels were visually interesting everywhere you fucking went. And this one is just kind of... Some of these are visually interesting, but it's like one location, a couple shots, and it does take away from the mythos, yeah.
Ben, I believe you were making a point that Josh and I rudely interrupted.
I'm so sorry.
Oh, yeah, so we're on Crate, and fucking, like, I get Rose and Finn, like, spent all this time on a fucking casino planet and everything, but, like, then the kiss comes out of nowhere, and I'm just like, like, I don't dislike either of the characters, but that just felt kind of forced, in my opinion, at least.
It's a greater problem with the entire movie, and Chris is right. This was actively malicious towards Finn. The entire subplot is so forgetful that the reason why the kiss comes off that way is, one, it was an insane thing for Rose to do because it's this dead heroes aren't useful heroes thing that the movie contradicts at least twice. But the reason why it doesn't work is because the entire subplot is so subpar that you don't even think about them being a couple, and there's no... It's like a weird, like, I don't know what they had John Boyega do in that kiss. I don't know what Ryan had in mind for that, but part of it was the acting of the kiss.
Yeah, it was a little clunky.
I see. All I could think is during the kiss, just like, you stop kissing Poe's boyfriend. Get off.
Girl, he's taken.
You home wrecker.
Oh, poor Rose. Rose was fucked from the start.
And I'm saying all this as someone who genuinely enjoys Rose's character.
Rose is fabulous and interesting.
Oh, her character's great, yeah.
She was fucked from the start because they didn't have a direction for her, and then JJ maliciously said, "You go to the side. We don't want to see you."
Because they barely had an idea for the three like main characters they gave us, let alone more characters.
I think, and again, I'm not a fucking expert at storytelling, but I think if you had put Rose in with Poe's story, you have a way to break down Poe's ego a little bit, like they were clearly going for, by having Rose just there constantly chastising him for getting her sister killed needlessly. So
yeah, it would have been way more interesting, wouldn't it?
Yeah. And let the fucking Jedi go train, you know.
The more I think about it, the more I realize that The Last Jedi and The Rise of Skywalker have a lot of problems, and I keep trying because there are times where I should have said a lot of similar problems, and the problems are with directors not communicating and actively throwing out plot threads. The reason why I bring it up is because I've been trying to compare and contrast why I 100% can sit through this movie without, like I get pissed at times, but it's not like I'm having a bad time, except for the fact that the next fucking movie ruined most of the plot in this movie and whatever. I think the reason why I prefer Last Jedi over The Rise of Skywalker is because The Last Jedi feels like it's trying to defy the expectations of the audience, so often to its detriment, but sometimes to brilliance. And The Rise of Skywalker feels like it's actively trying to say fuck you to everything that the audience didn't like and placate to the audience in a way that is entirely uninteresting and fanboyish. I think that's why I can take one over the other, because it doesn't feel like one of the movies is trying to tell me what I like and what I didn't like about the other one.
Yeah,
Does that make
I
sense?
could get behind that.
Does that make sense? Am I crazy here?
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Like, one of them at least tried something. The other one's just like, hey, remember this thing
Yeah.
you like? Here's this
I-
thing you like.
I'll take chances in storytelling any day over, like, just here's a thing.
I have, as far as this movie goes, I have only 2 more things that I need to talk about.
Please do. Please
I
do.
want to get to the next one.
Okay,
because-
can I get out my big... I've really... Go ahead.
This is why I love not having notes.
If this
Oh, yeah.
if this ends up being what I think it's going to be about, I gotta jump in.
Oh, that's fine. I expect us all to have notes on this. Fucking Space Leia.
Okay, that's exactly what I wanted to fucking talk about. This is the most
I've never heard Josh so like.
This is the fucking most disgusting thing that any Star Wars movie has ever done. In any way, shape, or form. This is actively detestable. The fact that they knew that Carrie Fisher died, whether this was in it beforehand or not, they knew that Carrie Fisher died. They knew that that was an active, hurtful loss to the entire audience. And they either made it worse to play on that, or they didn't take it out when they did that. When we had to actively watch her slowly die and crystallize in space, and then pull on that heartstring by pulling her in. Maybe the point was that she's more than death. I don't know. But it was cheap, and it was a disgusting marketing tactic, and there's no other thing in Star Wars that makes me as actively pissed off as that fucking scene. I'm done. I'm sorry. I had to.
You're good. And you said a lot of what I wanted to say. I'm glad you got that out. That being said, as much as I agree with everything you just said, also, it's really fucking dumb. It's super dumb. Crazy dumb.
Yeah.
Fucking dumb as shit.
Oh God.
It raises an interesting question about if space in the Star Wars universe is different than actual space. You know, she fucking survives in space. Also, in the beginning of this movie, we have Rose's sister who is laying at the bottom of the ship that is fucking open, looking out into space on the bottom, and totally fine. So is space just fine in the Star Wars universe?
Well, I imagine that there's like some kind of like invisible barrier, technology, force field, whatever thing that keeps the atmosphere and gravity in.
That part I understand. You want to know what the one that made me think that in this movie was? When Finn or Rose are fighting Phasma, absolutely fucking tragic that so much of that scene got cut out, and everything with Finn and Rose is fucking tragic. That ship is actively breaking apart right in front of them. You can see space outside, and everybody's breathing like nothing is happening while the ship is falling apart.
The thing with Rose's sister, like, okay, so we have the energy shields that protect the hangars that you see quite a bit in the prequel trilogy. You know, it's like the blue energy shield that covers.
Even in the OT as well.
Yeah.
On the Death Star.
Yeah. Fucking, why wouldn't you put that at the bottom of the ship at least? Because for real, it just looks like she can reach out and put her fucking arm out the goddamn ship. Like,
you're right.
Breathing in the fucking space. Same as the fucking Phasma scene. Same as this fucking scene.
In the Death Star hangars, it just opens up to space.
Yeah, but there's like a thin veil they added.
There's a white border of where the wall ends. I'm looking at pictures right now.
Okay, that's fair.
So I'm gonna go with my new theory, and space is totally fine. They just people are just hanging out in space. They just, you know.
Again, it goes back to the people want the Force to work in a way they understand, but it should be in some way wild and weird and like untamable. So I get that in theory. I can forgive it in theory, but one, it's Leia, who did not spend her entire life becoming one with the Force or whatever the fuck. At best, she kind of trained for a Jedi for a bit.
I will
And
I will
two,
defend it in that way. In that one way, I will defend the scene, and fuck you for making me have to defend the scene even a little bit.
you made me do the same thing.
If they're trying to do what they did in the original expanded universe books, at least, Leia was crazy powerful with the Force.
But didn't want to, yeah.
Yeah. So it stands to reason that, hey, I'm fucking dying, and she, would use crazy powerful Force abilities that seem ridiculous. So I will defend it in that way, but also, once again, fuck you for making me defend this scene. Because it's stupid. Super
Oh,
dumb. Crazy dumb.
it's actively the most disgusting thing. And I'd do the same thing, so fuck you. But...
No, fuck you. No, fuck you. No, fuck you.
Oh, we're doing the thing that Ryan Johnson and JJ did. No, I love you. Yeah, I get your point, and that was the most interesting thing about that weird bug trilogy that they did before between Yuzan Vong and the Legacy books that you like. I get what you're saying.
Such distaste.
I never am going to be able to go in as hard on those books because I don't want to actively ruin it for you. But
look, you're allowed to be wrong.
God. This is why I'm the Old Republic guy, because you guys can't touch any of my shit.
No, but Disney can.
No.
I get that. I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying, Chris. But also, if that was something they wanted to do, they should have made it like a thing that they say at some point in the movie so that it didn't come out of left field. And again, this is like a secondary thing because the scene is fucking disgusting and Ryan Johnson should be fucking ashamed of himself.
I want to defend it somehow, but they had like literally almost an entire year.
Well, and they made a point of saying, like, when, Carrie Fisher died, they made a point of saying, like, we're evaluating on how to handle this, and this, like, and this is what they came up with, like, I don't know what the right answer would have been, and I think it's hard for any of us to say what they should have done in this situation, but probably not that.
And yeah, no, not even probably. They shouldn't have done that. If they had that scene ahead of time, like they could have cut it down so it was like they could have worked around that so that you didn't emotionally have to go through that just for your shitty movie. And if they did it afterwards, that's disgusting. It's really really heavy.
Like, yeah, this is my favorite sequel movie. Also, yeah, this shitty fucking movie.
To be fair, when we saw it in the theater, I said all of these things to you about the Leia scene in the car immediately.
Oh yeah, you did.
I don't know.
Breathe, Chris. Breathe.
It's so bad. Like even if Carrie Fisher was still with us, this is dumb. It's super dumb. Visually, it's dumb. Like, even if you want to go she's crazy powerful with the Force, she could do this stuff. It's bad. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe people disagree with me. Fine, but I think it's super dumb. It bothers me so much.
I agree with you. It's super dumb. It's the only Force-related thing that breaks my immersion in the new trilogy. Let's talk about the Iron.
The Iron? The Iron. Oh.
The Iron.
It pisses me off so much.
Perfectly encapsulates this movie to me. You're actively meant to think that it's a ship, and because you can blink and miss it. You're actively meant to think it's a ship, and it slowly comes in from above you, and then just starts cleaning up a cloak. This movie was about defying expectations. Sometimes it did good, sometimes it did bad. That Iron perfectly encapsulates the stupidity of it to me. Like, the Iron thinking it's a ship bullshit, that's the movie to me. That Iron scene is this entire movie to me, and it's the dumbest possible thing.
It bothers me so much. Why did you have to bring this up, John?
Because it's so dumb.
It is, and that's the issue I have with a lot of this movie, and I know you brought it up earlier, but a lot of not even all the I don't mind comedy in my Star Wars. But a lot of the comedy of this movie comes out of just nowhere, and it just happens in the middle of, like when Rey's training and it's getting like kind of intense, and she's like shooting the lightsaber around, and she chops it off, and it like takes out a cart down the road, and the fish people just like look up at her. I'm like, did we need humor here? It just seemed very tonally detached.
I
Yeah.
will say, speaking of humor, the only time it works for me so much, and I love it, and I can't help but love it, is the fucking scene with Chewbacca eating a porg, and the fucking porg looking at him, devastated.
It's really dumb, but you want to know which one gets me? The training of Rey part right before the scene gets serious, because it's like the scene hasn't gotten serious yet, so it doesn't bug me when he has like the weird fern thing out and he's like playing against her palm and shit like that. He just smacks her. That one makes me laugh. I won't apologize for it.
I'm ashamed to admit that one's probably my favorite.
It's really good. It's really good. And that's a perfect joke because you're not taking away from the tone of the situation with the joke. You're just, it's before a tone has been properly set.
And it's great because I'm convinced that's Mark Hamill just being Mark Hamill.
Well, I love that scene too. Like I don't know. It reminds me of Yoda for some reason. Like that seems like a very Yoda move.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It feels like Luke channeling Yoda.
I want to talk about Yoda.
Yes, please. I was about to.
I'll let you two go first, but I rewatched this and I walked into the Yoda scene wanting to hate it really, really, really bad. And I didn't. I really didn't.
All I'm going to say is, like Josh has brought up before, he and I went to see this movie together. And I remember the first thing I said after we walked out of the theater was, oh my god, we got Empire Yoda. Because we got Empire Strikes Back Yoda, where he's a little piece of shit, and I love it.
Yeah. I've defended the movie before by trying to circumvent Star Wars stories, like a lot. And it doesn't do that as much as I remember, and that's a detriment to the movie. But this is, as much as like the lightning thing happens and all of that, like it's the most emotionally mature this movie ever gets. To have the character that is seen in the entire saga as just an absolute piece of shit look the apprentice that he failed in the eyes and say, yeah, you failed, I failed too. If we teach our failures rather than ignore them, we are doing our students right rather than suppressing them. And that is healing to me in a saga that just wants you to accept in a lot of cases that your masters are your masters and they know what they're doing. It is a somber moment that I appreciate in a movie that thinks a lot of itself and really only gets it right 40% of the time, maybe.
Well, and to play off of that, I feel like you said in our intro episode, or our preview episode, whatever you want to call it, this movie does a lot to put into perspective the aftermath of the Jedi.
Yeah.
Like, even Luke, as soon as Rey shows up, he's like, the Jedi need to not happen anymore. Because he's come to learn how flawed it was. And he even says, like, at the height of their power, they allowed the Empire to come into existence, basically.
Yeah. And you notice how every time Luke's having his pity party about the Jedi Order, Rey has a comeback that's entirely reasonable. Like, the movie is aware of it. It's like a you want to know what's weird? Luke and Rey scenes feel like a conversation between Rian Johnson and Mark Hamill, where Rian Johnson is ironically Luke Skywalker and Rey is ironically Mark Hamill. It just struck me, but I think that's why it works so well, because the movie is aware of both sides, but it's very clearly pushing one, but ends with another. I don't know.
I got a very similar vibe from it watching it this time, but instead of like seeing it the way you just said, I saw it more as like, I mean, especially the way this movie divisively split the fan base. I saw Mark Hamill as being like the kind of jaded, fucking, to be fair, kind of totally asshole, typically stereotype fans. And Rey being like I want to say the newer fans, but like there's a lot of older fans like you like this movie, but like a lot of the people who enjoyed this movie were more like, no, it's whatever, and Mark Hamill's like, no, everything's ruined. Meh. That's kind of going into it with the hindsight of what this movie, how this movie affected the fan base. I kind of got that feeling from it.
It's introspective in a really interesting way. And it's very clear that this was what Ryan was invested in. And he did a really good job at it. And I still think that's the case. But because he was so interested in making that part work, which it did, he made the rest of the movie really fucking terrible.
Are we gonna talk about Green Milk?
Nah, I don't.
I don't want to talk about the green milk. I don't want to talk about the green milk or the look on that thing's face. It looks so pleased, and it makes me so uncomfortable.
Luke Skywalker sucking on alien titties.
It bothers me so much, the look on that alien's face when it looks so pleased with what's occurring, and
the noises it makes.
I'm so uncomfortable every time I have to watch it, and I'm gonna have to watch it once every 9 weeks now, and fuck you for that.
Or his incredibly impractical 50-foot spike to kill fish in the river.
I have a question.
What?
Okay, so he has this 50-foot spike in a river. And he's looking down into this little if you look, it's just like a little like channel. It doesn't even lead anywhere. What the fuck is a fish even doing there? And if a fish is there, how the fuck does Luke see it in order to stab it?
It's certainly not calm waters, that's for sure.
If Leia can force float her way through the deep reaches of space, Luke can sense a fucking fish in a channel.
Okay, but
Chris,
no,
I also hate Leia floating. I'm consistent.
No, that's the thing. No, he can't, though. Because he's closed himself off to the Force, and he doesn't have the Force at that point. So he's he's just a crazy old man that somehow knows how to use an impractical fucking 50-foot pole to get it.
Look, I mean, people develop weird skills when they're by themselves.
Also, I want to see the shot immediately after he stabs the fish of him trying to like pull the pole up for like half an hour.
We talked in the last episode about the Force vision and how great that was, and how it's kind of been sullied. It has not been sullied as much as this fucking mirror scene.
Honestly, the mirror scene, I don't get it.
It was meant. Would you mind if I explained the premise of the scene to you from my perspective?
Yeah, I think I know what it's trying to get, but like honestly, every time I see it, it goes over my head.
The premise of the scene is that she's constantly looking for her family, or reliant on the idea of finding her family, or that she comes from somewhere important, and she goes to this mirror sort of in a Sorcerer's Stone kind of way to see her family and to get some strength from it and know where they are. And the mirror actively puts her in a room in a line where she is forced to look at herself over and over and over again, and move all the way through herself over and over and over again, as she sort of narrates at the end of the scene, to get to a mirror where all she sees is herself. It is a scene trying to tell her that it doesn't matter where she comes from, even if she comes from nowhere, because she needs to be self-reliant, because that is her strength, because she has survived on her own.
Okay, yeah, that's the vibe I got off of it. I just didn't know if there was something I was missing with it.
Okay. Which sucks, because she's a fucking Palpatine.
Well, and it's... So, like, the thing is, when I honestly never put a lot of stock in the idea of her being nobody after this movie, because the only confirmation, like the only legitimate confirmation we get is from Kylo Ren when he's trying to talk her into turning to the dark side. And I always saw that as him like trying to think of ways to turn her rather than him honestly talking to her.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I assume there's pretty much no part of me, regardless of the interview that just came out with Daisy Ridley, there is no part of me that feels the plan was ever for Rey's parents to be nobody.
No.
Nobody of any substance.
No. But it's something a lot of fans desperately wanted, myself included.
Yeah.
Because fuck this one family's more powerful than everybody else bullshit. But yeah.
Yeah. I would like to talk about my other point I have to talk about for this fucking movie. Because this, for me, was like my biggest frustration is the fucking throne room fight.
Okay.
Because parts of it are so good. So good. But the bad parts of it are so bad, and one scene cannot be unseen, that it ruins the whole fucking scene for me.
I think I know where you're going with
I kept actively looking for the person in the background just fighting himself that you mentioned, and I cannot find it.
So there is, and I will shout out a YouTube channel that needs no shouting out because they have like 4 million subscribers. This channel, Corridor Crew. It's like a bunch of VFX guys and stuntmen. They did like a episode. They do this thing where stuntmen react to scenes and movies. Touched on this scene in one of them, and they point out that there's, besides the guy who is, it's not so much he's fighting himself, there's a guy who literally falls over for no reason in the background. The fucking wasted motion is not so much an issue because that's been a thing prequels with Jedi doing shit that's completely unnecessary.
That's been a thing since A New Hope when Obi-Wan does a twirl in the middle of their
fucking twirl. No, it's the one specific part of it is like when Rey and Kylo are back to back and they're fighting off the group. There's a point where 3 of like the Praetorian guards hang back while Rey is fighting one guy and wait for her to perfectly get into position to all attack at once for her to put the lightsaber up and push them away. The fucking choreography is just, at times, so fucking terrible that it takes away from how good the rest of that scene is.
I noticed this today because I rewatched the scene because I wanted to find that and I couldn't. There's like a scene with the one that Rey's fighting where he takes his, or they take their blade and they bring it in half to make it 2 daggers. And you cut back to Kylo and you cut back and that second blade is missing.
The dagger disappears, yeah.
Yeah, the dagger disappears. Which I'm fine with because you know what? It got me finally after all of these years, which I will say, both The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi have given me things I've wanted to see in Star Wars movies for years, even if they didn't give me like a full satisfying duel. Of her throwing the shitty Skywalker Legacy lightsaber at Kylo to like turn it on and turn it off to go through somebody's head. That was good. But yeah, that blade just being missing kind of sucked.
But okay, we all know what's gonna happen though. Fucking 2 years down the line, we're gonna get like a side comic or a side book where it's like that Praetorian guard was Force sensitive and he was doing the thing that they do in The Rise of Skywalker where he teleports his dagger somewhere else. You know that's gonna happen.
Yeah, my other big problem with this is like, why do they have to be weird energy tipped weapons? Like vibro blades already exist in the Star Wars universe that can go up against the lightsaber without getting cut in half.
Yeah, but also I feel like a lot of that's not mainline Star Wars, so I think a more mainstream audience would be like, why the fuck are these swords not disintegrating?
They used a vibro dagger in The Mandalorian.
Yeah,
but not against the lightsaber.
Yeah, I guess, but still, it's fucking established canon. Use it, you cowards.
I agree.
Me as a fan that has actively taken in all other kinds of side content was never sold on vibro weapons or whatever, to be honest, just because it does not look, and maybe it's Knights of the Old Republic that did this to me, it does not look visually interesting to have a regular sword and a lightsaber meet and it not go through that sword. It didn't bother me in this case because if you're gonna make it visually interesting.
See, I like it because I like the idea of people having created things to be like, yeah, fuck you, Jedi, you can't cut through everything, you fucking, you sons of a bitch, thinking you're better than everybody.
And
Apparently.
there's a litany of things in the Star Wars. I don't know how much of it's canon. I think Cortosis is still canon. I don't think Frick is canon anymore, but there's so many materials. Because they needed to use them for plot devices, honestly. And they couldn't keep track of what they were, so they just made a new
That's
one
the
every
thing.
week.
And at a certain point, it makes sense, because at some point, the people of the galaxy are going to be like, we need to do something about these space wizards cutting through everything. We gotta, this is becoming a problem.
Well, that's like during the, in the Old Republic, during the Mandalorian Wars. Mandalorians actually used slug throwers.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
you could deflect blaster bolts. But if you try to deflect a bullet, you're just getting a face full of fucking melted bullet.
Well, they used them in like the first Mandalorian War, the one
Yeah.
where they. I'm sorry, I don't want to. I did
No, you're right.
that. Yeah. I'll cut that out. I sounded like an asshole.
Oh, you'll cut out when you sound like an asshole.
Well, now it's staying in. I just actually do it. I'm so sorry.
He totally did.
I'm so sorry.
Actually, that was the first Mandalorian War. I love you, Josh.
This has been Star Wars every week forever. Thank you so much for listening. Rise of Skywalker. Oh, I fucking God, I don't want to. Good night.
Join us for our episode that's as long as The Rise of Skywalker itself, probably.
Oh, God.